Hi guys, a very warm welcome back to my channel. The reason why I wanted to do this video is to explain to you my brand new lino print that I've decided to create from doing a bit of still life drawing. I have managed to find some time to do some still life drawings because for me they're the easiest things to produce in terms of when you don't have all your materials with you. Drawing just takes a pencil, pen, bit of paper and anything you can really draw. I had a collection of items that were very simple. There was my camera stand, which is what you're actually standing on right now, a couple of plant pots, a bit of wallpaper paste, like the pot and some wallpaper itself. Just a bunch of items that I kind of grabbed, put them into a corner and started doodling and drawing from. Now when it comes to drawing, I always like to start with a technique just to kind of warm myself up, and that is the first image that I want to show you. So as I said, this is the very first piece that I started with. This is very much only a section of the, let's say, setup, should we call it a setup of the live drawing. I decided to start off with a single line piece. So this is with, I believe, a 0.4 pen, fine liner pen, and that is just how thick the nib is if any of you are interested. But I just kind of started off basic and simple just to kind of warm up my hand. I like to draw without looking at the paper sometimes. I like to draw with my left hand so it engages with the other side of my brain because I am right-handed, and that is just one of the techniques I started off with. This next one I decided to go even further in by doing a 10-minute draw of a plant pot. So this was in the setup. I just decided to do it because it was one of the more interesting objects there. There is a lot going on in terms of shape, form and kind of contrast, because at the very top you've got this very heavy mark making area, and then you got these really nice open negative spaces towards the bottom, and then the plant pot at the very bottom. So again, it was just one of those kind of warm-up drawings just to get my eyes, my brain thinking, and to be able to connect with my hand, because believe it or not, sometimes your hand does not want to draw what you want to see, what you can physically see. I went a bit more looser. I decided to not look at the paper, single line with a bit of 10 seconds, so literally I was scribbling all over the place for the marks for the plant pot. Still very proud of this. This is still 0.4 pen, fine liner pen that is. Again, I can't really complain. Sometimes the compositions work out really well, which in this time it did. This next one, 10 seconds. The thickest fine liner brush that I had. Again, I was very fixtured on the plant pot because that was the main focus within the setting of the live study. You still got this clash and contrast between the top part, which is very heavy with all like the heads of the flower, and then the leaves at the bottom. Okay, this is where I begin to experiment with the whole of the composition, and that is because I didn't know how to translate it, the whole composition, into a piece that I was very happy with, because originally I did start off with drawing. As you can tell, I've just showed you about 3 to 4 drawings, and I didn't know at the time that this was going to turn into a print, so I was trying to draw my way into a new technique, something I wanted to try that I haven't necessarily done before. So I was putting everything, I was jotting ideas down, I was saying, okay, what have I learnt within this short space of time, because this was still within the hour of setting up and drawing to my heart's content. I was using different thicknesses of pens on top of each other on layers, and as you can see there are 4 or 5 different techniques on here. You've obviously got the thicker line, which is the very last one I did. That was like a 10-second drawing, so single line continuous drawing but with a time limit. The very first one was a lot more detailed. You can kind of see down here how much time and effort I put into drawing the objects without it looking too realistic, but in my own style of work. Some of my notes have literally just been drawings of what I wanted it to do, or maybe some ideas I wanted to try out. Say here I've got overlaying, one's different tools, thickness of line, ink, pen, pencil, just adding different materials to the make, just to give a bit more of contrasting composition. So when layering on top of the original drawing, I could change position, so I can do it from the left hand side, so I can draw from the left hand side whilst, or I can do it from the right hand side, so it's two different perspectives on top of each other using different mediums, therefore curating very different perspectives but creating one unique composition. This next one is, again, one way that I've been trying to use techniques that I actually used to warm up with. So this is actually, believe it or not, single line, but for each object. So you may not notice, but I will do the plant plot for example. I started about here, so I just kind of drawed around, but the whole object was connected. The same went for this object, and then obviously for the wallpaper, that is the wallpaper paste, there's a paintbrush, and that was the legs of the tripod. It was really hard because I really liked this section because it was so loose and so flowing, but the other objects kind of made it flat, and I don't want to say not interesting, but they weren't as exciting to look at, and I wanted the whole composition to kind of come out and stand by itself and not having to rely on another part of the drawing. This is when I started to go into using my technique from earlier, which was the single line, very quick pace, because this is where looking back at your own drawings from before comes in very handy, because you pick out what you like the look of first, and then you kind of go, why do I like that? Is it because it's contrasting? Is it because there's loads of negative space but it's very complementary? Comparing it to the rest of them, I was stuck between this one, and I was basically saying to myself, why do I like these two compared to the other ones that I've drawn? Does not mean I do not like the other ones, but these ones were the ones that really stuck in my head when it came to what have I achieved in this past hour and a half that got to. And I just liked the fact that it was single line, it was all connected, but every single object stood by itself. So that is a very important thing, which leads on to the next point. This is one of the, let's say, snowball effect drawings that started off me realising this might actually turn into a print. With it being a thick line, I just did a bunch of single line within a set time limit, and I just kept on repeating it. So this is one of the very first, and I got to here. This is a lot more restricted. I started to think about not necessarily looking at the paper all the time. It's very much 50-50 in trying to remember how much of the composition I can remember and if it's influenced by not looking. And I found my recycled leather sketchbook, which I actually got given for graduation by my boyfriend, and I'm going to start off on this page. So this is the next few drawings that I did. I started to just repeatedly looking at the pictures. I wasn't restricting myself with time, but I was just thinking, if I only had a certain amount of lines that I could produce to show what this live drawing looked like, I just kind of kept that idea in my head, and I started fiddling around with where I placed objects. I started to begin to do a little bit of research into Cubism. I know quite a lot about Cubism already with Picasso and George Barak. Barak, depends on how you want to say it. And so it's just simple looking up on your phone, having a look on the internet, looking on your laptop, looking at a book. Book's always better because the colours in the paintings are very much more to eye, whereas on the website, on the internet, they can be altered slightly because of resolution, that's the word. So I just continuously started to doodle. I was very lucky the fact that I went from this starting point to this one, and quickly I landed on this one. It's very, very rare that you get to a composition that you think you've nailed it, and this is pretty much the nailed composition that I loved. It was the right size. I really like this size and scale, and it was very balanced. Comparing it to the rest well, the other 2 drawings I've done in this booklet, which are these 2. I did like this one, but I thought that was a bit too crammed. I started limiting a lot more on how many lines you could use within each object. And if you notice on this one, all the objects have 2 or 3 lines, and they do not close when it comes to like circles or triangles or even squares. It's just the fact that you're suggesting a line that isn't complete, but yet you can still kind of tell what it is. And that's basically how I got from here. Well, from, what's that? Ooh, sorry. How I got from this first drawing down to this drawing. Like I said before, I did start to realise that I wanted to do this into a print, and because of costs and experience, I knew it would have to be a liner print because it's the most cheapest way of replicating work without doing screen printing or, well, screen printing. You can, I was thinking about doing cardiograph board, but I don't have the materials, and again, it's harder to create a piece of work when you have to wait for the materials to come, because honestly, there's a couple of projects where I just lost interest because I was waiting for the materials to arrive, and yeah, just not good there. So in the next part that I'm going to show you is the actual lino cut itself. So it's this piece. I've already gone ahead and cut out the drawing. With printing, you do have to flip the image because otherwise it will print like this. I'm trying to explain it. Like, I've got the test print over here. So this is the right way that I wanted it to be. For it to print like that, I had to flip the image, draw on the lines like of it being flipped, and then cut out around it to be able to get to that image. You may notice it is actually larger in size, so it's probably about double the size, and that's because of how fragile and small the lines would actually produce up when printing. So they probably wouldn't actually appear because they're very thin, and I don't actually have a liner piece that was so basically A5 size or half this print. Does not mean that I will not try it in future. This is just a way of me to forward the project without it just going to a standstill. I've always preferred to be able to do something relation within the project rather than let it stand still, because as I said before, it can just stop. You forget about it, you lose interest, and then before you know it, all that time you spent on that project has gone. So this next part is me going to be printing the final print on some really nice printing paper to show you the proper printing, the proper finished print for this size. Does not mean I won't be doing a larger size or smaller size. For me, it ends with this next print. Okay, so now the the paper has been watered. That makes it sound like a plant, sorry. I wet my paper, so because my printing ink is water-based, so it's easier for it to soak up. And welcome if you've just joined us and you decided to skip the intro, that's completely fine. I look forward to you commenting down below. Okay, so here is a piece of paper. I have cut down this print as much as I can so the little bits in between will not appear on the print, but to be honest, I don't really mind if they do, because it will make the print individual, because every single one is not going to be the same, because a different amount of ink will pop up on different types of prints. Right. is going to be edition 1 print. I normally make about 10 editions of each print on a specific piece of paper because it makes the print more special, basically. Okay, here we go. There we have it. As always, like I said before, the lines will always show up, so I will just have to trim down a little bit, but you can actually wait for this to dry and then rub them out with a rubber as long as you're very, very sensitive. But from what you can see, I can see a lot more of the lines compared to you, but it does not mean it does not falter the quality. I'm really, really happy with how far this mini project has actually gone. There are some slight tweaks that I need to do, but what can I say? I'm just really happy that it worked out. I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did making it and talking through it. If you have any questions, please comment down below, and also don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel, and also check out my description box to links to all my social medias and also my eBay selling account, which is where I'll be selling all my artworks that feature on my channel and also some other little bits and bobs as well. So I shall see you guys next time. Bye!